welcome to my sewing room. We have such an exciting show for you today and a really beautiful technique called stained glass. Now, what is stained glass? Let me share with you some examples. This absolutely beautiful pillow, which is made with pieces of wonderful colors of silk dupioni, and this beautiful silver that goes around it, which makes it look exactly like stained glass, is double fold bias tape. That you can use the pre-purchased or you can make it yourself. Are you ready for this? For those of you that love the beach, and wouldn't this be great for a little boy's room to have a nautical theme? This is a beautiful lighthouse with colors of blue and yellow, and then the double-face bias tape is of a dark blue. Now, oh, you are going to love this one. This Christmas stained glass is so pretty. We have used all different kinds of Christmas prints as well as some solid colors. Isn't that just a beautiful way to start the Christmas season with this beautiful stained glass wall hanging? And you know, this is absolutely beautiful. This is stained glass plus stippling, a lot of really wonderful colors, a little bit of a muted fabric in the purples and the sort of different shades on one piece of fabric, and then the stippling, and of course the double fold bias tape, which finishes off the areas. Now, I bet that you're thinking this is very difficult to do. Well, you're wrong. It is very easy. Come on over to the technique boards and we're going to show you how. I am so thrilled with this beautiful butterfly stained glass wall hanging. It was designed by my friend Chris Broom, and it was made by Louise Baird, who was here with me as my guest on the show. Absolutely beautiful. The hanger is, see all these pretty colors of silk ribbon that have been twisted together? That's what makes the hanger. We have a black stick, a black rod. The base fabric is green silk dupioni, and then the pieces of the butterfly are in wonderful quilting cottons that almost looks like you can see through stained glass. This is the bias that goes around each one of these. There is bias that goes around the little sections that outline, and this, believe it or not, this is an easy project to do, and if you don't believe me, you just watch. First of all, we trace the butterfly pattern off on iron-on stabilizer, and I have traced it on the paper side. This is the iron-on side, but I traced it on the paper side. Then I pretend like I'm making a puzzle. It is now time, you can pretend like you're 6 years old again. Go ahead and cut out your puzzle pieces, and this is so much fun. Cut out your puzzle pieces. Now, I also have written on each puzzle piece the color orange, blue, purple, green. So you get your fabrics that you're going to use, the orange, blue, purple, green, or whatever fabrics you choose, and then I will take my pieces I just cut out and iron them onto the orange and the yellow and the purple. In other words, I'm completing more puzzle. But as you can see, I'm going to have to trim away that puzzle. So that's what I do next. The next step is to trim away, and then I have my trimmed pieces here exactly ready. You see, I lift it up and there's purple. I lift it up and there's blue. So I have my puzzle pieces ready to go. The next step is to trace the pattern once again on a fusible interfacing with the fusible side up. In other words, the sticky iron-on side up. Okay, I'm going to take my puzzle pieces. See, here's the purple one and the red one, and I will use a temporary spray adhesive, and then I will place them on my design. And you can probably guess the next step. It is to pull off the little backs. I can't even pull. That one's kind of stuck. Here we go. Well, can't pull that one either. But anyway, we pull off the backs where it looks like this. After you pull off all of the backs, then you iron this, and you absolutely have your butterfly ready to finish. Now, this is what it looks like after the whole butterfly has been pressed down and your little paper pieces of the stabilizer have been taken off. Next step is to put the little squares around the edges. So you see here we just have the little squares. I place them around the edges, and over here I also have them placed around the edges. Now I have used a quick bias strip here, a quick bias strip that actually already has the glue on the back. and you just pull the little tape off. Now, there are two ways of finishing this. You can use the bias, the quick bias, or make your own bias. Or, if you will look on this one, you can see that we have just done a zigzag, a wide satin stitch. You can satin stitch the whole thing as we've done up here, or you can use your quick bias or make your own bias and just put it on and double stitch it. Now, you can use a double needle, or you can just use a regular stitch and go on both sides. Now, this little butterfly has some tentacles, so we're going to go ahead and trace it off on water-soluble stabilizer and zigzag all these little tentacles in, and then we're going to pull that off after we've stitched. As you can see here, this side is satin stitched. This side has been stitched either with a Madeira applique stitch, or right over here you can see it has been stitched using a double needle. And I'm going to quit talking and come over here and let my dear friend Louise Baird show you exactly how this works. It is my pleasure always to have on my show my very close friend Louise Baird, who works with me at Martha Pullen Company. And you know, some people around the world say she's the finest machine artist in the world. So Louise, I won't embarrass you, but that is the truth. Louise, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Martha. I always enjoy being here. The stained glass technique, I'll just go back over it with, as Martha did it earlier. I used a iron-on interfacing, an iron-on stabilizer, and traced on the paper side. And there are a lot of different methods of doing it, but yet this is one that I thought was pretty easy. Once you trace it, you need to number your pieces because you're going to need to put it together back like a puzzle, as well as put the color on it. I found that if you put the color, it's easier to continue your process. Also, this is the little to trace the antenna. I used a water-soluble stabilizer, used KK2000, and traced not just the antenna, but also the head, so that it will give me a better placement. I'll know exactly where to place it. Okay, then I have all my fabrics that I used, and for the body of the butterfly, the fabric I had in my stash, or my resource center, like you call it, it didn't really fit for the body, so instead of using the right side, I did choose to use the wrong side. Okay. And now, just like Martha said, you cut it apart like you would a puzzle. You cut on the lines themselves and then fuse it down to the right side of the fabric, because this is going to be the right side that is up. Cut them out, and then you just put it together like you do a puzzle. And here I have a beginning of it where I've got the colors done. I would just continue doing all the colors and then easily tear off the paper backing. And of course, I can't grab it either with my fingernails. Okay, now.
But it does come off pretty easily.
Now the stitching is done. You can use either a pre-finished bias, and this, like Martha said, has a fusible on the back of it already, so it's easier to use. You, of course, can make your own bias tape using a bias tape maker. The quick bias, like this, comes in a lot of different colors, some metallic colors, as well as greens and blues and other colors also. Okay, I have gotten my design where I've already started placing the fusible bias, but to show you how easy it is to shape, if you just will place it down and tug on it a little bit as you go around, it's very easy to shape. And then you would take your iron and fuse it down. Now, when you're doing the fusing of the bias, whether it's handmade or purchased, you need to be sure to cover all raw edges, as well as covering background to foreground, just like you would in regular applique. Okay, now in this piece, I've also got my antenna that I drew, and this would be placed so that it would just be matching the head, and there I would know where exactly to place those antennae. Okay, now for right now, I'm just going to do a little bit of stitching on some of the completed areas. I do have a a stabilizer on the back side, and I've got a 4mm double needle. Now when you use this, when you actually do the stitching on this, I like to, the beginning stitches, instead of a tie-off stitch, go down to a very short stitch length and take 2 or 3 stitches.
Short stitch, like
Very,
0.8.
about 0.8, 0.5, something like that. And then go back up to about a 0.2. When you get to the end of this little section of the bias tape, go back down to the tiny straight stitch and take a few more stitches. And that will knot your threads without having a very obvious knot in the thread.
Just that short little stitch.
And remember, just as you laid the bias tape background to foreground, you do need to stitch background to foreground also in all of the different sections.
Louise, that is absolutely a beautiful project and a fascinating technique. And you did make it easy.
Yes, thank you.
And next I have a home decorating project for you. I have asked Louise to share with you how she did that beautiful ribbon hanger on this wall hanging, and also those cute little tabs.
Okay. When I did this, I was looking for a way to hang it other than just a sleeve on the back of it. So I did make the tabs that are here, as well as the twisted hanger that's made out of silk ribbon. I tried to choose the colors that were in the wall hanging to do the hanger. Now, to do the tabs, the very first thing that I did was to measure the size or the distance between the black either bias tape or satin stitching, and double it, and then add ½ inch for a seam allowance, and then just stitched the 1/4 inch seam allowance on the tabs. And the tabs are 3 inches wide, or long rather, so that when they're folded up they're not too big. Okay, and once you have the tab stitched, then you press it and fold it out so that the, rather turn it right side out so that the seam is in the middle, and when you fold it down, it's going to be folded, it will look, be totally finished on your wall hanging. And I just did add 3 of the tabs to make the wall hanging pretty even. Okay, now to make the ribbon hanger that I have here, it's just silk ribbon that I tried to match colors that I were in my wall hanging, and I am going to twist it with the bobbin. Now this is the bobbin, and I just tied it tight on the inside of the bobbin, and then I'll place it on the bobbin winder and engage the bobbin winder, and then hold the ribbon taut but not tight, and then run the machine. And you can see how it's starting
just
to twist
twisting
it.
all along. Oh, that is so fascinating.
And as you twist it, it will twist and twist. When it gets to the point where it wants to start twisting on itself in this area, then all you need to do is disengage the bobbin. If you hold it right in the half, in the middle, Martha.
Okay, I can.
Okay, and hold it a little bit taut.
Okay.
Now I'm going to let it twist on itself. Okay.
Okay.
Now it's going to just twist on itself, and that makes the hanger.
Oh, how pretty, Louise.
And you do need to be sure to tie a knot in the end that's loose so that it doesn't come undone.
Well, and I love the little silk ribbon tails that hang down too, showing out. Louise, that's one of the prettiest wall hanging, and it's so neat. Oh my goodness. Louise, thank you so much for these wonderful tricks that you just come up with year after year. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next I have a beautiful project for sewing for your baby. I don't know if I've ever told you about my secret fascination with the beach. My guess would be that some of you love the beach as much as I do. And I love any kind of a nautical theme. The beautiful wall hanging I showed you at the beginning of the show, and here it is again, has a pretty lighthouse. It's a little blanket with a lighthouse for a baby. And the other project is a wonderful pillow with a boat. And I just think this would make the nicest little baby boy's room. Not do so much baby things, but things which will go with him as he gets larger. And of course, now listen, little girls like boats and lighthouses too. All right, this is the pillow project. Absolutely beautiful, very, very easy. This is once again using the stained glass technique. First of all, let me get this board off. First of all, you're going to draw your image. You're on the reverse side, the paperback fusible stabilizer. It's a reverse image too, because we're going to have to flip it. And then, just like Louise did, except I don't have mine cut out yet, I'm going to cut out the pieces because we have to get the blue sailboat all ready to go and the yellow flag. Anyway, I'm going to cut out the pieces. I'm going to fuse them down to the blue fabric, and then I'm going to fuse the pieces onto my white pillow backing, the blue boat and the sails and the flag at the top. Now it is time to either use my bias tape, or you can simply zigzag around that, just like Louise showed you, both of the options. This is a little bit more like applique. Now, here I have used the bias tape, and you can use that quick bias, which already has the fusible on the back of it, or you can make your own bias, or you can make a bias tube, depending on what you like to do. Now, here we've used the bias tape around it. I'll come all the way around here, and I'll use the bias tape around the flag also. Now, here we're all finished with our bias work. Our sailboat is all finished, and now we're just going to simply use strips. We used a baby blue around the inside, a darker blue, and then the quilt has a cotton batting on the inside, and this really is a cotton batting, and then the backing for the pillow. And the final step is to put your binding around the edge for a very, very tailored pillow for a beautiful nursery for a baby and for its mom and dad that happen to like a nautical or a beach theme. And next I have a segment for you called Sew Kool for Kids. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my daughter, Joanna Pullen Hammett. Joanna, what do you have that's so cool for kids today?
Well, today I'm going to show you how to make a journal cover. But actually, it's a book cover, and you can use it for your school textbooks or a Bible cover or just any type of book cover you would like. And I will show you the end product. Here it is. And here's my journal. Just a fun cover. And all you need to make this journal cover is the fabric to cover the book, plus 1.5 inches on the top and bottom, and 3.5 inches at each end. But also be sure to use fabric that won't fray, like felt or knit. And all you do, it really does.
Not to have to finish those edges.
And after you have measured your fabric, all you do is simply fold it on each end, like so, and pin. And all it is a simple straight stitch all the way around the fabric.
Down one side,
down one
the other
side,
side? And that's it.
And all we do is straight stitch. And be sure to get it as close to the edge as possible. You're
stitching?
You're stitching.
So it will fit over the book cover?
That's right.
Fit over the book? You know, this would be fun to do all kinds of different ones for school books, and I bet it'd be kind of nice to let the teacher have one too.
Get that pin out. A grade book cover. This would be a great teacher present.
That would be a great teacher present, or even to get a book for a teacher. Which most teachers like me, and of course you were going to be a teacher until you changed your major to fashion design. It would be great to get a book for a teacher and make a cover for it. You know what else would be fun, I think? To put an embroidery on the front. So you put a teacher's name or your own name or whoever it was going to be for, just to put their name.
So like I say, you just go straight stitch all the way around.
All the way around. The ends too. Okay, that makes it easy enough, doesn't it?
And I am using a white thread just so so it'll show up on TV, but you would probably want to use a thread that would match your book cover. But anyway, all you do is just sew all the way around, and that's all there is to it.
Thank you so much for sharing that easy, Sew Kool for Kids book cover. One of the things we are really excited about in the sewing industry is all of the notions that are being developed to make sewing fun and easy. Joanna, you know I like that word easy, where sewing is
That's right.
for kids or for moms and grandmothers too. Anyway, I'd like to share with you a wonderful notion in our section called Clever Notions, and this notion was demonstrated at a recent consumer show in Arlington, Texas.
When I was a child and went on trips with my parents down highways through the South, I remember tourist spots on the side of the road, and they had bedspreads hanging out on lines. They were all different garish colors with patterns on them. These were chenille bedspreads. Most every home, especially in the South, had chenille bedspreads throughout. These can now be found at flea markets and antique stores, antique malls, and you can buy these a lot of times fairly inexpensively, especially if they have holes in them or stains on them. And we can use those now to make projects for our children and for our homes. I have an assortment here of some colors. They come in different designs. Some of them have stripes on them, and some of them have little dots on them. Sometimes they will have a color with white flecks on it. And I've used these. This is a child's jacket out of an old lavender chenille bedspread with patchwork pockets. And I have picture frames that are easy to make out of various pieces of chenille. And then this is a little child's romper trimmed with drapery material and piping and a sash in the back.
I purchased this dress at the Paris flea market. It is so very, very unusual. The underdress has the tucks on the bodice. Now when I say underdress, it has a little bolera, as you can see here, which has hand embroidered eyelets all over the bolera. And the little sleeves are extremely pretty also, with their hand embroidered eyelets. It almost looks like little grape bunches. And then there are 4 tiny baby tucks on the bottom of the sleeve, and Swiss entredot at the top and the bottom of the cuff, and then just a pretty little slightly gathered French edging. If you will look at the front, which I think is very unusual, actually I don't purchase things anymore unless they're very unusual. I have such a collection. But then the handmade eyelets go all the way down the front of the dress. Quite simple and quite pretty. You know, I like to show you the backs of these dresses also. This is truly a masterpiece. The little bolera, which really, well, it kind of is a bolera, but the back has tiny little buttons and a little casing, a little placket that covers those buttons. This truly is a magnificent dress. For our Sewing from the Heart today, I have a letter from the Bartlesville, Oklahoma Smocking and Heirloom Guild. Sad but true is the fact that there are stillborn babies. It is a stressful time for parents, and going out to look for a garment for the baby to be buried in would make it even worse. We live in a town that has no shop that would have tiny infant clothing for such an occasion. Our Smocking Arts Guild makes gowns and caps for these babies. One of the members worked out a pattern that is quick and simple and very sweet, using pretty handkerchiefs. Many of the handkerchiefs are heirlooms that have been handed down from our family members. The first meeting of the year is set aside to make these dresses and caps for the local hospital to give to the parents in their time of need. We hope that seeing their sweet angel in a pretty dress will help a little bit with some of the grief that the family is feeling. Sincerely, Sydney Beasley from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and she writes representing the Bartlesville Smocking and Heirloom Guild. Sydney, this is a wonderful, wonderful project, and it is so sweet for you and your ladies in your guild to use some of your own family treasures and your family heirlooms. You know, you can't outgive God, and I think that when you really do something for people in need, it's just a real blessing to those of us that do it. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today, and I'd really like for you to come back next time.